I wanted to take this opportunity to sit down and have a little chat with you about why Star Trek Enterprise should return. Now, before I get straight into it, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, when you subscribe and when you like and when you share, you help this channel to grow, which allows us to bring videos like the one I'm about to start talking to you about to your screens. So thank you very much for everything you've done so far. Thank you for all the help that you're showing us. Now, let me get into the reason why I'm talking to you today. It seems you can't go 24 hours without some Star Trek news coming out at the moment. It is a fantastic time to be a fan of the franchise because it seems like there's always something new. Now, that got us to thinking here in Trek culture about new is great, but what about old? What about Enterprise? There's a few reasons why it's the perfect time for Enterprise to return, but the biggest reason of it all to even entertain this thought is that Enterprise is unfinished. Out of all of Star Trek, and that includes the original series, the animated series, all of it, Enterprise is the only one that's not truly finished. Now, I'll discuss these are the voyages in a couple of seconds, but really, the story is so open-ended. We don't really know on screen where these characters went, what they did, what in fact happened to the NX-01 on screen. Was it destroyed? Was it retired? We don't know. So it's not like Star Trek to leave such a big thread hanging like that. The only reason it is like that is because of its untimely cancellation. So in this era where everything seems to be getting a green light in Star Trek, it seems like a return to the biggest unfinished, unanswered question of them all is an absolute necessity. Star Trek Enterprise was released between the years of 2001 and 2005. It was filmed and rendered in HD. Now that's really important because think about the Star Trek that's out there at the moment. Whether you love or hate the style, the fact is it's stunningly rendered. Like, my God, Star Trek looks good at the moment. We've seen in Star Trek Picard as well, the rendering of the Enterprise D that opened the first episode, and I think I cried a little bit when I saw that. And also, we've seen Nova-class ships and Steamrunner-class ships as well. Like, Star Trek has pulled out the big guns when it comes to depicting things on screen. Now, we know those files for Enterprise are still sitting there. Doug Drexler, who designed the NX-01, has returned to work on Star Trek. So the fact that he is back working on Star Trek Picard Season 2 and Season 3 in particular means he is right there to start working on it again. I mentioned that we hadn't seen what happened to the NX-01 on screen, and of course we didn't. However, the NX-01 was refit with a secondary hull. Now this is a design that Doug Drexler did himself and has been released in things like the Ships of the Line. And of course Eaglemoss has released a model of it. I have one just there in the back, and it's a lovely middle ground between what the NX-01 looked like and what the Constitution class would go on to look like. Initially, they're quite different, and you know, it would take a little bit of time. In fact, the redesign, John Eaves' redesign of the USS Enterprise for Discovery took a little bit of inspiration from the NX-01. So to have that ship depicted again now in a potential 5th season would have an even stronger visual continuity between Enterprise and Discovery. Speaking of Star Trek Discovery, throughout the 4 seasons that we've got so far of Star Trek Discovery, there's actually been quite a lot of references to Enterprise. Think back to Season 1, and Archer is listed as one of the greatest captains in all of Starfleet, as well as the fact that he's name dropped as being the only Starfleet officer ever to step foot on Kronos. Fast forward then to Season 4, and you have just that moment that it actually made a lump catch in my throat of the reveal of the Archer space station with that beautiful theme music playing over it as well. And then of course you've got Tilly's snow globe. It's the NX-01 and it says anything is possible. Money where your mouth is, CBS. Anything is possible. Enterprise, the audience is there for it. Now is the time. again, maybe sticking on the Discovery thing for a second, the era in which seasons 1 and 2 were set, and I'm going to presume, just for a moment, I'm going to presume Strange New Worlds is set at that time. I have no confirmation of that. It could be set before, it could be set after. But in theory, T'Pol could be alive and well. So there would be a way of bridging a gap. If, for example, T'Pol appears in season 1 of Strange New Worlds, we'll see how well this video ages, or we know that in continuity, Jonathan Archer survived long enough to see the Enterprise launched. Now that was in 2245, so if we get a flashback to that in Strange New Worlds, which we very much might, we could have, again, Archer cameo there. Both having T'Pol or Archer appear in Strange New Worlds would be, I guess, a good barometer to test the audience's reaction to seeing those characters back again, but also an excellent way of just bridging the gap between Enterprise and this modern era of Star Trek. Strange New Worlds has been described as a return to the episodic, sort of Planet of the Week version of Star Trek. Enterprise was cancelled because of failing ratings, but think about the time at which it was released. It premiered around the time of 9/11. It tried to capture the optimism of the original series and The Next Generation at a time when the world was about as far away from optimism as it was possible to get. Quite frankly, audiences, it was jarring to see this bright version of the future when Earth was basically burning down around us. Enterprise did reflect that as it went on. Season 2 got a little bit darker, Season 3 got a lot darker, and Season 4 had a mix of the two. So had it gone into a 5th season at the time, I personally believe it probably would have gone darker again and edged closer to what Season 1 of Discovery ended up being with the Klingon War. Look, I'm not saying it was good, I'm not saying it was bad, but that's what I think it would have gone toward. When we have a show like Strange New Worlds that is advertising itself as a brighter version of the future, it seems that Enterprise, what it wanted to be, what it tried to be, it would be the right time to bring that back now. Have 2 shows that are doing that, because look at the reaction to Lower Decks, which is an out-and-out comedy. I mean, yes, it has its dark moments, but it's just so light, and that's getting a great reaction. Picard, yes, it has aired on a darker side, and, well, you can see the split in the reactions to it. Likewise with Discovery. Prodigy, it's a bit early to tell, but it's generally lighter, with some fairly dark moments as well, I can tell you that. Now, we've got to talk, of course, about These Are the Voyages. I don't like talking about These Are the Voyages because no one involved seemed to know what to do with it. A couple of the people involved in the years since have tried to defend it, and understandable, if you're involved in a project, you don't want to sit there and slate it off. But the fact is, These Are the Voyages, it's a dreadful ending to a television show because it was supposed to be the last episode of Enterprise, and it just doesn't do the series justice at all. It relegates it all to a holodeck. Now, it's not like, oh, it was all a dream, but it's poor. It's a bad ending. So if we were to get anything, it would be better than that. And of course, let's talk about the trip in the room. Charles Tucker deserves better. Now, it was a shock death thrown in because the show was cancelled. At the time, doesn't really matter. Kill him, whatever, it's cool. Death means nothing in Star Trek. In fact, to date, there is only one main character who hasn't returned after dying, and that's Jadzia Dax. Let me rephrase that, one on an ongoing series. So, because we had season 7 of Deep Space Nine, where we had Ezri Dax. Take the challenge of how do we bring him back? Let's do that. Let's make it canon, but let's bring it back. How do we undo this? Do we say, oh, he effectively had the flu? Do we freeze him? There's so many ways. It's Star Trek. They'll find a way if they want to. But it's a disservice. These Are the Voyages is a disservice to Enterprise. And I think as the almost 20 years have gone by, that has become increasingly obvious. To fix that, if nothing more, in this era where we have short treks, we have mini-series, we have fixed series, It seems like now would be the perfect time to fix that. In the February 2022 SFX interview with Akiva Goldsman, he literally name drops Jonathan Archer as a character he would like to revisit. They were talking about, the projects they're going to look at after Star Trek Picard ends. He mentioned an anthology series. Now, this had been mentioned by Brian Fuller way back when Discovery was still in its pre-production stages. This idea of having a different season be a different story. Now, let's say they do that. Let's say they do a one-and-done season of, what did Archer get up to after the Enterprise? Me, I'm a glutton, I would like a whole season. But if I got one episode, one movie, anything like that, that just detailed what happened with Enterprise after, well, let's say after Demons, and that storyline. It seems that the interest is there. It's a very interesting nugget to drop in an article. It could be nothing. It could mean absolutely diddly squat. But maybe, with the combination, Doug Drexler is back, Goldsman is thinking about Jonathan Archer, potentially you have characters who are still alive out there, re-entering an optimistic era of Star Trek. Those elements combined suggest that it is the perfect time for Enterprise to return. Now, one last thing before I let you go. Scott Bakula. Man is alive and well. He is working on NCIS, but also a reboot of Quantum Leap has been announced, with Scott Bakula confirmed to be returning. So if he's already in the mood to come back to projects he did before, CBS, please. But I'm really interested, what do you, the audience, you are the consumers of this content, what do you believe when it comes to why Enterprise should return now? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a dreadful idea? Let us know in the comments below. Let's get a conversation going. And thank you very much for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, you can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick on Twitter as well. You can engage with me on my podcast at You're On Crack, Mate on Twitter, or we're on Spotify. Have a tune in, have a listen. You are all awesome. Thank you so much. Let us know what you thought, because we really are dying to know. You live long and prosper. Thanks.